One of the most effective ways to land new photography clients is to create an eye-catching online photography portfolio filled with your best work. But how do you know which format will help you land the most perfect shots? That's right, it's time to delve into the shooting RAW versus JPEG debate. Hang on to the end of this video because I'm going to go over the benefits and limitations of both RAW and JPEG so you can choose the best option for you, allowing you to create an incredible portfolio with amazing shots every time. Hi, I'm Jim Costa. I'm a full-time working photographer, video producer, editor, and technology pro, but you can call me a dadographer. If you like what you see in this video, stick around to the end because I've got a couple of photography, video, filmmaking, and editing freebies, and even training courses I'll tell you about that will definitely help improve your work and help grow your business through earned media exposure. And remember, I welcome your comments, questions, and more on all of my videos. So, RAW versus JPEG. Let's consider the pros and cons of both formats. JPEGs are considered the standard file format in the digital photography world. JPEG mode is the default setting for many digital cameras and is likely what your digital camera was set to when you first took it out of the box. Many new photographers will start by shooting JPEGs instead of RAW to get a better sense of their camera, but this file format can be beneficial to seasoned photographers as well. A few of the benefits of shooting JPEG over RAW include image processing is done for you. One of the biggest advantages of shooting JPEGs is that all the processing of the image is completed by your digital camera. In JPEG mode, you find your subject, press capture, and your camera does the rest of the work. Settings like white balance, color saturation, sharpening, tone curve, and color space are all applied by the camera to create the final image. This means you don't have to spend any processing time on the image yourself once it's been saved to your memory card. This benefit can be huge for new photographers who are still figuring out how to white balance, sharpen, and lighten their subjects. Beginner photographers can shoot tons of different types of photos, from landscapes to wedding shots, and create strong photos without having to worry about the processing side of their work. The process nature of JPEGs also gives seasoned photographers the option of taking images more quickly and consistently. If you're a photographer working year-round on different projects, you may not have time or energy to process thousands of images. Extra processing time and large file backups can also end up costing you a lot of money and your clients as well. Photographers who shoot a lot also usually have a good handle on how to expose an image and use their camera and won't need to bother with post-processing their images, making shooting JPEGs ideal. When debating between RAW or JPEG, another thing to consider is file size. JPEGs are stored as compressed files. This means each JPEG has very small file size and won't eat up all the storage on your memory card. A smaller file size is key if you're on a long shoot and don't want to keep having to swap out your camera's memory card because it's filling up too fast. If you're shooting at a busy event or a fast-paced fashion shoot, for example, you may not have time to change your camera's memory card, so JPEGs will be the way to go. A smaller file size also gives you the flexibility to take lots of images at once on one memory card. Buying memory cards can add up, especially if you've already spent significant amounts of money on your digital camera and lenses and other equipment, so JPEGs may be the thriftier option overall. Because JPEGs are processed by your digital camera, you can share them instantly on your social media accounts. Whether it's adding a new post to your Instagram or a fresh profile picture to your Facebook business page. JPEGs are also easy to post on your online photography portfolio right away to boost your site and help you land new clients. The small file size of JPEGs means a lot shorter upload times. You can publish your photos online in mere minutes. If you're often updating your portfolio on the go, make sure to go with a website builder that has mobile app functionality so you can literally do it anywhere. If you're planning to print your photos and wondering RAW versus JPEG, know that shooting JPEGs means you can easily print them off and frame them or mail them out to friends as gifts really quickly. Sharing, posting, and printing your photos is much quicker overall if you shoot in JPEGs. So what are the drawbacks of shooting in JPEG? While JPEGs can be beneficial to new and seasoned photographers, they do have some drawbacks, including a loss of detail. When your camera compresses an image into a JPEG, the image ends up with less details. JPEGs can have a lossy quality to them, meaning the image may appear grainy, flat, or pixelated. The loss of detail tends to be more obvious if you're shooting a highly detailed image or a close-up. Macro images, for example. This looks really bad. Some photographers find the loss of detail in JPEGs off-putting, especially as once an image is formatted as a JPEG, it cannot be edited or reprocessed to have more detail quality added. Also, there are less color options with JPEGs. When it comes to RAW versus JPEG, there are also color considerations. JPEGs are 8-bit, which means they have a limited range of colors and tones. Your camera can capture trillions of possible colors, but when it converts an image to JPEG, a majority of these colors will be discarded and will not appear in the final image. So, for example, a colorful landscape may end up looking much less bold when you shoot in JPEG. They also have lower dynamic range. In photography, dynamic range is the difference between the lightest and darkest tones of an image. When you shoot JPEGs, the image will have a lower dynamic range, meaning there may be areas that have a high level of light tones that are overexposed or a high level of dark tones that are underexposed. There may be shadows in certain spots that are obscuring the image, making it difficult to see. Again, because you cannot reprocess JPEGs, you cannot address issues like over and underexposure in the final image if they show up. Now, if this is making sense to you, but I've got it in the comments section below. So what are the advantages of shooting in RAW? Now let me take a look at the other side of RAW versus JPEG, and that is RAW files. Unlike a JPEG file, RAW format is uncompressed and is not an image file per se. In fact, RAW files are a collection of data from your camera sensor that are saved on your camera. Software like Adobe Photoshop or Lightroom allow you to view the data as images and edit the RAW files. Though the standard format on digital cameras is a JPEG file, most professional photographers prefer to shoot in RAW. There are several advantages to shooting RAW image over a JPEG, including you can get higher quality image files. Perhaps the biggest benefit to shooting RAW format is that your camera is capturing absolutely all of the data that it receives from your camera sensor. This means that no details from the image are removed or discarded, which is often what happens in JPEGs. With the RAW format, your camera is collecting everything it can see and storing it for you so you can process those details yourself. This means you have a high quality image file to work with during processing and can create the best possible image. You also have increased brightness with RAW files. Here's the brightness breakdown of RAW versus JPEG. A JPEG file records 256 levels of brightness, while a RAW file records a whopping 4,096 to 16,384 levels of brightness. Having a higher brightness level will make the tones in your images appear smoother. It will also make it easier for you to adjust the brightness of your image during processing, giving you more tones to play when you edit the image. You can also adjust and tweak the image without affecting its quality. Images with high bright levels also prevent posterization from cropping up. Posterization occurs when a long band of color appears in your images, obscuring the image. This often happens when you are shooting a bright sky against a bright backdrop and can reduce the quality of the image. You also get more colors in your images with RAW. The RAW format contains a lot more color than JPEG files. 68 billion more colors to be exact. A 12-bit RAW file image contains thousands of shades of red, green, blue, and other colors, while a 14-bit RAW file contains trillions of possible colors. Shooting RAW ensures you are capturing as many colors in an image as possible, creating photos with a higher color range and color depth. This is why brightly colored landscapes or vibrant fashion scenes with a range of shades and tones will likely turn out better if you shoot in RAW versus JPEG. You also have higher dynamic range. Are you worried about overexposed or underexposed images? RAW photography is very forgiving if you end up having to correct the light in an image. These files have a very high dynamic range, so they can capture a lot of lights and shadows. Having all this data in the image will make it easier for you to adjust over and underexposed images during editing. Shooting in RAW over JPEG may make sense if you tend to overexpose or underexpose your images. It may also come in handy if you are shooting in an environment where you can't always control how much or how little light is hitting the image. Another thing to consider is processing and editing files to your standards. The most powerful way you can use the RAW format is after you're done shooting during the editing process. If you're trying to choose between shooting RAW or JPEG, remember that RAW files were designed to be processed to suit the taste of the photographer. This capability gives you immense freedom to adjust images as you see fit, especially if they did not turn out exactly as you had hoped. Though the ease of a processed JPEG is nice, your brain is often more sophisticated than your camera, and working in the RAW format gives you full artistic control. Settings like white balance, exposure, and brightness can all be changed in post with a few clicks of your mouse in a program like Photoshop or Lightroom. If you accidentally use the wrong setting for your image, change it in Photoshop by adjusting the RAW file, and no one, including your clients, has to be the wiser. You can also use sharpening tools in Photoshop and Lightroom that are more powerful than the tools in your camera. An image that was shot too soft or has too much noise is easily sharpened up with these tools, resulting in photos that look truly awesome shared in your photography or on your website for your portfolio. Are you nervous about editing RAW files? The beauty of editing RAW files is that it is non-destructive. When you open a RAW image versus opening a JPEG image in a program like Photoshop or Lightroom, you'll edit it and save it as a TIFF or as a JPEG. This way you can always access the RAW file or the RAW data at any time and then re-edit it or adjust it as needed without losing the high quality of the file. This makes the editing process less stressful and gives you the option of editing the same RAW file differently depending on your intent and the needs of your clients. So what are the limits of the RAW format? Like JPEGs, RAW files do have a few limitations. Before you opt for shooting RAW instead of a JPEG, let's consider what the drawbacks of the format are. To start, it has a larger file size. Collecting all the data your camera can see takes up a significant amount of space. Because RAW files are not compressed, they take up more memory on your camera. This means your camera buffer will fill up much faster when you shoot in RAW, which can cause the camera's frame rate to drop and limit how many images that you can fit on one memory card. Having to swap out your memory card during a busy event or a hectic shoot can be annoying, and you will need to think ahead about packing extra memory so it's on hand. Shooting in RAW also requires more storage on your computer with larger hard drives and better computing specs, such as more RAM, as processing RAW files can be more resource intensive on your computer. This may be costly for some photographers as computer storage, graphic, and RAM updates can all add up quickly. Of course, image processing is required. RAW versus JPEG wise, RAW files give you more freedom to adjust and edit images, but processing an image yourself does take a significant amount of time, especially if you are working image by image and are new to photo editing. Shooting RAW versus JPEG means you will have to set aside time after a project to upload the images to editing software and tweak them so that they all look their best. Image processing can be especially stressful if you are working up against a tight deadline for a client. If you do go with the RAW format for big projects, it could be helpful to create a workflow using Google Apps or other organizing programs that make it easier for you to process all of your photographs on time. Some photographers are turned off by the time-consuming nature of processing RAW files into beautiful finished images, although the more you edit your own images, the faster your processing becomes. Another consideration is software compatibility. Unlike JPEGs, RAW files are not designed to work across different manufacturers. So if you have a Canon digital camera and a Canon RAW file, you cannot use Nikon software to open it. Always check that the software you are using to open and edit RAW files is designed by the same manufacturer as your digital camera. For example, Canon software for Canon RAW files or Nikon software for Nikon RAW files. If you have a newer digital camera, you may need to wait a bit for the software companies to update their software so you can open RAW files using their platform. However, Adobe has recently developed an open source RAW file format called DNG or Digital Negative. You can use Lightroom to convert RAW files into open source DNG files. It's an extra step, yes, but it will ensure your files are readable and you can access all the files as needed. Many camera manufacturers are starting to offer an option to shoot in DNG format, and soon this open source format will likely be the go-to for all manufacturers moving forward, making it much easier for you to access your RAW files. With all that, RAW versus JPEG, which one is better for you? RAW versus JPEG, two options, two sets of pros and cons. Let's do a final quick review of the benefits and annoyances of shooting in RAW versus JPEG so you can decide. Pick JPEG for quick and easy shoots. JPEGs are your BFFs if you're taking photos casually or on the fly, say at a family gathering or party with friends. JPEGs give you the flexibility to take a lot of images quickly and share them right away. No extra processing time required. JPEGs are also your go-to if you need a quick profile picture for social media or want to capture a special moment for Instagram. You may even opt for JPEGs if you are shooting a ton of images in a fast-paced environment like a sports game or a fashion show, and you feel confident enough to know your exposure, letting your camera do the rest of the work for you. Go RAW for detailed, stylized shots. The RAW format is ideal if you are shooting with the intent of editing the images later. Shots where you're trying to capture a lot of detail or color, and images where you want to tweak light and shadow should be all shot in RAW. Go for RAW if you are shooting photos for your photography portfolio that you want to spend a lot of time on, adjusting the white balance, color, and tone until they are just right. RAW may also be ideal for high fashion, commercial, or creative work where you want the images to have uniform vision or style that pops with the help of tools in Photoshop and Lightroom. Match your format to your needs. As a photographer, you need to use a format that will work with your overall goal as a creator. Focus on how you plan to use your shots and choose the format that fits your needs. This may mean you use RAW and JPEG files formats for one shoot or the other, depending upon what you are shooting and how you'd like your images to look. Dip into either format as needed and shoot smart so you end up with great shots every time. For inspiration and guidance, check out the online portfolios of your favorite photographers to see how they shoot and format their work, from travel to film to food, black and white, and more. Don't forget to add those shots that you like best to your own portfolio. Regardless of whether you go for RAW or JPEG, make sure you upload your best RAW or JPEG shots into your online photography portfolio. Don't have a portfolio yet? Building an online portfolio is easy with the right website builder. Look for an online portfolio with fresh, modern themes to show off your amazing shots and a built-in online store in case you want to sell prints. A good website builder will make it easy for you to adjust features on your site with just a few clicks, no coding required, so you can upload beautiful images in RAW or JPEG in a matter of minutes. Shooting it in the right format that fits your workflow and budget will make your online photography portfolio that much stronger. Get ready to impress clients with killer images. After all this, you're probably wondering what I shoot in. The answer is RAW. I always shoot in RAW because I like larger, more detailed file sizes, and I expect to have to process every image. Additionally, I know how to use Photoshop, so that's not an issue for me. But what's the best for you? Well, consider all the listed pros and cons that I've mentioned and decide for yourself. My question of the day is, what is your preferred format and why? Leave a comment below and let us know. If you found the information in this video useful, I'd love to hear about it from you. If you liked it and want to see more videos like this, then follow my YouTube channel, JimCostafilms. If you think what you saw was great, please like it. If you have an opinion, feel free to comment below. If you know someone who could benefit from the info that I provided, please share the video. You can connect with me and my company, JimCostafilms, on social media and online, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and the web, simply by searching for JimCostafilms. In fact, I currently have over 4,400 videos on my YouTube channel, JimCostafilms, so feel free to check out many of my other videos for great tips and suggestions. Thank you for sticking around this far. I mentioned at the beginning about some freebies and training. As a professional video producer and photographer, I've created an absolutely free cheat sheet for you on all the best camera settings to shoot with your DSLR, mirrorless, and video camera that will show you the settings that will allow your photos and particularly your videos to shine and stand out from the competition. The link to get that cheat sheet is just below in the video description. Best of all, my cheat sheet specializes in shooting video with any type of camera. In it, you'll find all the info you need on important techniques such as white balance, color temperature, frame rates, and more. I've also created an editing training for Adobe Premiere Pro. My Quick Start training is designed to get you up and editing video in under 2 hours and includes more than 100 tips, tricks, and keyboard shortcuts for video editors. When you get the program, I also include a PDF file of keyboard shortcuts that work on both Mac and PC that will help to increase your workflow and make your editing go much faster. Now, I'm also affiliated with Christina Nicholson, a fellow media veteran like myself who helps businesses and entrepreneurs reach tons of their ideal customers or clients through the power of media without spending big bucks on advertising. I've worked with Christina and used her advice and training successfully, so I know from firsthand experience that it works great. The program Christina and I are now offering is called the Media Mentoring Program and will help you take advantage of mainstream media so you can stand out from the competition because it's not something that everyone has access to. Best of all, unlike paid ads and sponsorships, you can gain lots of exposure and credibility to become the go-to brand everyone talks about and wants to do business with without spending a fortune on advertising. I'll link to those cheat sheets and training courses in the description below as well. There's videos on both courses that will give you an overview of how they can help you, and then links to get more information online. Finally, if you follow me for a while now, you may know that I have a private community of photographers, videographers, and filmmakers just like you on Facebook where I share other pro tips and tricks. It's called Video Producers and Content Creators, and it's a separate private Facebook group only for people in those industries and not the same as the Facebook page I have for my business, which is public. I love new members who want to share their work, learn from others, and also help others. You'll find the link to that group in the description below, so feel free to join it where you can learn even more.